The NIT finals tonight. Indiana State against Seton Hall. Marco D'Angelo joining us. He's got a total for you on that bet. Ralph Michaels has the side. It's baseball season, and Ralph Michaels has a chart on how to bet MLB favorites of minus 200 or more, plus Kyle Anthony with some UFC. I'm Lawrence Pressman. My co-host is Teddy Covers. He currently is on a run of runs, one of those once-a-year type runs. We'll talk about that a little later. You're watching WagerTalk Today, the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Marco D'Angelo joining us right off the bat. Both Marco and I got yelled at this morning, Teddy.
Oh, yeah? What'd you do?
It's what we didn't do. Marco, do you want to...
What didn't you do?
Nothing better than Marco and I, co-founders of WagerTalk, literally the first two, the original two at WagerTalk. We got lectured, yes. We have not put up enough free picks, and I'm committing right now on air live that I am going to do better. I'd like to apologize to the WagerTalk team. You will get more free picks from me. With that said, I don't seem to lose my free picks. Last night I won another one, and I got one up tonight. So, Marco, I'd like a public statement, please, about your lack of free picks.
Well, Prez, I do a lot of plays. It's just, we do shows every week and that, but we're going to change the format and have more solo videos, free picks. That's where we're going to be heading. So look for that in the coming days of what we're going to be doing. And quite honestly, not to make an excuse for it, but the NBA, it's this time of the year, the last 2 weeks of the season, you can't get stuff up early. You got to watch the lineups and everything else. So I'm treading on the cautious side there. And as you know, with baseball, my style of handicapping, I've only had one baseball play so far. I like to let them play a few games before I jump in. My style of handicapping is going by what I see currently, not trying to predict the future based on the past. And now that we got a week under our belts in baseball, you will see a lot more baseball plays coming from me. So the world will right. Everything will be okay. Don't worry. Take a deep breath.
Nothing like starting the day with a group Slack where Marco and I get lambasted. Rightfully so. Johnny and Rick, lots of love. My humble apologies. I will do better. Teddy Covers, get some actionable info out of that man.
NIT finals tonight. Indiana State Seton Hall at legendary Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indiana. Right now, looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, I'm seeing a mix. There's some Indiana State's -3. There's some 3.5s out there. So if you're laying, make sure you're laying 3. And if you're taking, make sure you're taking 3.5. Total sitting 160 pretty much across the board. There's still a couple of 159.5s out there, but mostly 160s. What do you want to do with the Sycamores and the Pirates playing for a title on Thursday night?
Well, I got a message to Pitt and St. John's, who were the other two teams that I felt got the shaft from the NCAA committee for the big dance. They pouted, took their ball, and went home, where Indiana State and Seton Hall showed up in the NIT with a chip on their shoulder and ran it all the way to the championship game. Now, granted, both of these two teams played all of their NIT games at home, so they had the benefit of that, helping to get them to this point. But we do have a very meaningful and interesting matchup tonight for the championship. With that said, Teddy, I'm going to look at the total. And you said there's mostly 160s out there. I'm glad, and I hope it goes up another tick because I am going with the under. And I'm basing it off of the situation. I think this number's a little bit inflated due to a recency bias by people looking at what the scores have been in the recent games. Indiana State, obviously, in their last game, you had a score of 190 total points. So you are going to see the line come out a little bit higher in this one than it should be because of the overreaction from that last game. But if you look at what Indiana State has played in the 4 games here in the NIT, 3 of the teams do play up tempo. You know, they had the SMU game where they scored 101 points. Well, if you watched SMU this year, they have high scoring games all the time. So that's why you had that. You talk about styles for fights and so forth. Seton Hall doesn't want to go up and down the floor. For Seton Hall to be come out a winner in this game, I feel they got to dirty it up. They got to play tough defense, physical, that Big East brand of basketball against Indiana State. And so they're not going to run. And I like this game under the total. And because they've already played here on Tuesday night, I'm not going with the first half angle where so many times, and we'll talk about that in my next video in more detail. I'm going full game here. Yes, when you go full game on an under in an elimination game, you always have to worry about the dreaded last minute and a half if it's going to be a parade to the foul line. But I think this one's going to be far enough under the total that even if we get a parade to the foul line late, we're going to be good. A couple stats for you in this one that also supports me with the under in this game. Seton Hall, after 2 straight wins the last 3 seasons by 15 points or more, they're 6-0 to the under. And correlation there is because they're playing their brand of basketball. When they're playing good basketball, it's defense, and that's leading to the unders. Indiana State, after allowing 75 points or more in back-to-back games the last 2 seasons, they are also 6-0 to the under. So for me tonight, I am going to take the game under 160 for my play here on WagerTalk Today.
So I want to talk about those scramble points or the potential for those scramble points. And it's not necessarily in regards to this game, but I want to ask you about point spread ranges when it comes to totals. Because for me, this particular point spread range, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, where it's either likely where it's supposed to be either a 1 possession or a 2 possession game in the final minute. Huge difference if it's a 1 possession or a 2 possession game in the final minute. 2 possession game, you have to foul. 1 possession game, you don't. So this particular range, this like 2.5 to 4, a lot of times I don't play totals in this range because you could have no points in the last 2 minutes. You could have 30 points in the last 2 minutes. The level of variance is enormous. Do you look at stuff like that, or is that not a piece of your handicap?
Obviously, Teddy, that's something that you've got to factor in when you're looking at a game. I do think this is going to be a close game. And the key to it is I would rather have it be a 3 to 5 point game with a minute and a half to go, because those first 2 possessions in that final minute and a half, generally they're not going to foul. They're going to try to get a defensive stop first. And that can eat up, the other team's going to be content to work the shot clock all the way down if they get that opportunity, which drives me nuts if I have the favorite, because what happens? You sit there and dribble, and you dribble, and you dribble, and then you go into your offense with 8 seconds left and get a horrible percentage shot off. So that tends to lead more to not getting the points. Where I have a concern is where a team is at 7 points down and they don't realize they've lost the game already, and they just continue to foul and chuck up the 3, or the other team gives them that easy 2. Yeah, we'll give you the easy 2 because we're going to go back down the other side and shoot 2 foul shots. You're going to foul us again. So I hope it's a 3 to 5 point game late, and this does have all the makings of a game like that with it, and especially if Seton Hall is able to do what I think they do, trying to slow this game down and make it a physical game.
Marco D'Angelo joining us, everyone, co-founder of WagerTalk. Man who doesn't put enough free picks up. Marco, we've got the Final Four on Saturday. And look, I'm excited. Both these games are going to be fun to watch. Purdue's playing NC State. You like the first half under. You've got it at 68.5. Tell us why, and also why you're not looking at the whole game going under.
Yeah, is I kind of teased it in the first free pick that we did. I said I'm going full game instead of first half, is because these two teams in that first game played on Tuesday night in the venue. So anything as far as the sight lines and stuff, that they already are used to that. They've played in that building. When you're playing the first game in the new venue, it's different, okay? And especially when you're playing a Final Four, you're playing in a bigger arena. The sight lines are much different. So you factor that in. Also, you put in, these kids, they're 20 to 22 years old. Nerves can be a factor. You come out in that first half of the game, if you're a little bit nervous, tight, maybe you're going to be short on your first few shots. Or if you're too excited, you're all pumped up, the adrenaline's flowing, maybe you're a little long on those first few shots. So games have a tendency, I feel, on the big stage, on the Final Four, as opposed to the national championship game where you've already played on that arena and that are comfortable with the sight lines, you're going to have a slower start to the game. So I'm going to go ahead and look first half. What me and Teddy just talked about in the full game, and one of the concerns that you have is that final minute and a half of people fouling and getting free points at the line with the clock not moving. Well, in the first half of a ball game, you don't have them fouling in the final minute and a half of the first half. You're playing it out. So I like the first half wagers much better in this spot. And then you do the handicap of the game. NC State, my God, what a story they have been. They've won 9 games in a row. We all know about the 5 games in 5 days, the 7 games in 12 days. It's been amazing. What's been more amazing about the run is that in 7 of the 9 games that they've won in a row, they've been an underdog, okay? You just don't keep winning as an underdog. And how have they been winning? Well, it's no mystery. Look at the defense. This team is playing insane defense right now, and they've held 6 straight opponents to 39% or less shooting. That's another key reason why I'm looking at the under in this game. And then we look at the Purdue team, and I look at the style. First of all, NC State wants to have this as an ugly game. They want to play a half-court game against Purdue, and Purdue is content in doing that. Why? Because they got an old school. I love this. The big man has been a lost art in basketball. We see it in the NBA. Everybody wants the guy that can go out and shoot, take their man outside, shoot a 3, and still dominate inside, but they don't move the ball and pound it inside. That's what Purdue does. And this is a team that's not deep. They rely on 4 players basically to get all of the minutes, and then they have 3 guys basically that eat up the rest of the minutes divided. But you're going to see Zach Edey on the court basically the entire game, and they have no problem riding him as they did in the Tennessee game. I think he played all but 1 minute of the game, scored 40 points in 39 minutes. Guy does not shoot a 3. He pounds it inside and he gets to the line. Old school basketball, and that is a slower pace. If you look at Purdue's games this year, the majority of them, they're shooting about 50-some shots per game. They're not a fast-paced team. I love the under, and I love it in the first half for all of the reasons that I said at the top of this breakdown.
So Purdue's coming off a game in which Zach Edey made 13 baskets and the rest of the team made 11. They shot 3 of 15 from three-point range, and they missed a dozen free throws. Clearly not even close to their best offensive game. On the other side of the equation, NC State, they really weren't tested by Duke in the second half because Duke had, and you talked about NC State's phenomenal defensive numbers. They've been great in this tournament. That's why they're here, is because of their defense. But let's just say they've had a really fortuitous roll of the dice when it comes to opposing teams' three-point shooting. I think it's something like 18% for the tournament. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's been really ugly, opponent three-point shooting. So we have all of these factors that all help unders cash already. Are they still going to be in play here?
Again, The reason that I like the first half versus the second half is because if Purdue does, shoot better than they have, if they figure out this NC State defense that so far, Teddy, nobody has, okay? Is it a coincidence that everybody's shooting poorly from 3-point range? Yeah, but the one big difference with it is all those teams they played, who would you compare in that lineup of the teams they've played that would be similar to Purdue and play the style of basketball that Purdue can play with a 7'4" guy that they do rely on? There's going to be a lot of possessions that they're going to make that extra pass or two on the offensive end to try to get it to the big guy. And again, that all works for the clock. All right. When you got an under, you hate to see, 9 points in a minute, because they rolled up the floor, in a transition basket and stop and pull up for a three and drain it. And the team's coming back the other way. I don't see that often in this game, and especially in the first half, while the teams are filling each other out, making the adjustments. Don't forget, they've had a week to devise game plans. And until you get out there and see exactly what the other team is going to throw at you, sometimes it takes a few minutes of filling things out and get to that first time out and make some adjustments on the sideline with the clipboard of how best to attack what they're throwing at you.
Marco D'Angelo, everyone. Marco, I've now figured out why you have not put up a lot of free picks, because they would be like 6 pages long, and who has the time for that? Anyway, guys, Marco's got a 4% NHL game of the week going tonight. Awesome run, 144 W's, 100 L's, kicking ass. I love it. What else do you have going for the clients?
I'm going to have some basketball up, and as I said, this time of the year, you got to be a little bit more cautious on watching the NBA lineups of who's in and out. And kudos to Teddy. You've just navigated the NBA marvelously this year. And
yes,
great job, buddy. I've had a great run for 3 years in the NBA, but the last 2 weeks of the regular season is always dicey, wondering who's in and who's out. So you got to wait a little bit longer before you pull the trigger.
There we go, Marco D'Angelo. Lots of love, my brother. Kick ass and have yourself a winning week. Teddy, Marco mentioned your NBA, and before we get into what did Bettors learn, and I am interested in what you have to say. I want to go through what's going on with you right now, because we do this for a long, long time, and I'm in the middle of a moment of betting hell, if you will. I went 2-4 last night. I'm 0-5 to start the baseball season. I don't want to say that I'm not seeing things right, because I'm really losing just horrible losses. But you are in the zone and having one of those runs where you're lucky to have one a year like this. Last night, 3-0. In your last 3 weeks, guys, listen to this. In Teddy's last 3 weeks across the board, 42 wins, 16 losses. That's about as good as it gets. You're on a 9-1 run in NBA. Your NBA since 2002 is 59%. Your college basketball is on a 23-8 run. I mean, these are world class. I mean, some would say they're Presman-like numbers. It doesn't get much better than this. 42-16 in your last 3 weeks. Dan, do you have any a round of applause, standing O music?
Appreciate it, guys. That's my job, Lawrence. what I like.
We do not have a promo for you.
What I really like is when I have enough hot streaks going that I can't even fit them all on the page. And the baseball is every bit as good as the college hoops and the NBA. And the big tickets have been good. But the long-term stuff is the stuff I'm excited about. Since November, up 100, I think is 118 units. Every play, every day, just shy of 60%. NBA, every play, every day since November, 60%. All sports runs, solid. And that's what we try to do, Lawrence. I haven't put together the ridiculous 40-2 hot streak. It's been slow, steady. That's what wins the race. We'll see if we keep it going tonight. Single best bet available. Just a single best bet available over at WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com.
Teddy, I think a 42-16 run is as hot as it could be. I mean, Charlize Theron. Yeah, okay. We've all been hotter, Schmo. What did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
So I wanted to talk about two things that happened on yesterday's show. First, Lawrence asked me if I was God because I said that the Mets game was going to get rained out. And I didn't get a chance to respond. No, I'm not God. I don't get to rain out games or not rain out games. But I can read a weather forecast or look at a local radar. And it's pretty clear in MLB, there are some games that are going to get rained out. When I look at that, I don't spend much time handicapping the game after that. Certainly played out that way yesterday. Lead Mets, now they're the first game of a doubleheader today, changes the whole nuance of the game. Yeah, weather forecasts that show the entire region submerged in rain all day, you can predict rainouts sometimes without being an almighty being. Second, we had an issue on the show yesterday, Joe Musgrove under 18.5 outs versus Joe Musgrove under 17.5 outs. Brandon Seton came on and said, I love this bet under 18.5 outs. It's a great bet. And it was. However, it didn't last long. The 18.5 was bet down to 17.5. And at 17.5, it's a very different wager. Andy Lang comes on the show all the time and talks about when you're betting props. He said, I'll bet this guy over 1.5 3-pointers forever until they move the line to 2.5. And then I'm going to bet him under 2.5 points forever until they move it back to 1.5. The books are very limited in terms of where they can put these numbers. A half an out is worth a fortune. A half a 3-pointer is worth a fortune. Be wary when you're making your prop wagers, when you're following the WagerTalk and or Sports Memo handicappers of their prop wagers. Get the number that they're recommending. Half a point, half an out, half a shot attempt. They're all worth something. Last night, if you had Musgrave under, they were worth a whole lot. Lawrence?
So where did it land?
Landed at 18, of course. So if you watched, I was watching. Of course I had to watch. All right. 17 outs, 2 runners on, 1 run in. He's either getting an out to get out of the inning or the runner's going on base and he's getting pulled from the game. He's got a 3-1 count on Nolan Arenado. Arenado's a beast, you know. And then he threw a nasty cutter for called strike 2. And then he got Arenado chasing a high, hard one, which would have been a walk if he didn't swing at it. And the game would have gone under. Instead, lands right at 18 and goes over for some, unders for others, depending on where you got the number.
Great take. That's super interesting, Theodore. That's for sure. So I started Shogun last night. I'd like to hear from anybody in the chat room what they think. I'm halfway through episode 2, really enjoying it. Looks like it's going to be a masterpiece. You read the book.
I did. Many years ago, I read the book. James Clout was a great writer. You can read a bunch of his stuff and be entertained for days and learn a lot about Japanese culture. But yeah, that's something I probably read in the 80s.
Yeah.
I think I watched the original Shogun when there was a mini series back in the 80s. I watched that too. We all walked around calling everyone Son. Hello, Lawrence Son. You know,
I think Richard Chamberlain was in it. Anyway, we got to get going. Ralph Michaels joining us. Ralph, how are you, my friend? Nice to see you.
Doing great, guys. Always enjoy following Marco, and congratulations on your run, Teddy. It has been spectacular.
Appreciate that, Ralph.
Ralph, Marco came on the show, talked Indiana State versus Seton Hall. He likes the under. It's 160. You've got a side bet for us on this game. Let's hear about it.
I do. I do like Indiana State. And when you look at what they've done through the season, they are really a team that I think deserve to be in March Madness. Now, Ken Palm had them at 41 when they lost to Drake in the Missouri Valley Conference semifinals. And look at who they've done. They beat SMU, Minnesota, Cincinnati, and Utah. And to me, that's very important. If you just look at the Ken Palm ratings, SMU was number 72, Minnesota 78, Cincinnati 39, Utah 48. So their last two teams they played actually had a higher Ken Palm rating than the current team. You look at Seton Hall's run, St. Joe's, North Texas, UNLV, and Georgia. All of those teams number 57 or higher. So this is the top team they have faced so far in this tournament. I look at Seton Hall. Seton Hall went 17-2 straight up as a favorite, 10-9 against the spread. But as a dog, they're only 6-10 straight up, 6-10 against the spread, and only 1-6 against the spread in that role since January 20th. If you are watching these two teams, folks, you are going to see starters, and starters. These are two of the bottom 6 teams as far as bench minutes go. So their starters play more than all but 7 teams played this year. Indiana State, a three-point machine. They are number 6 in the percentage of three-point shots they take in the game. They are number 11 in the country as far as three-point percentage goes. They're the number 1 effective field goal percentage team in the country, and Ken Palm has them rated number 12. I look at Seton Hall. Seton Hall is a team that plays decent three-point defense. They're in the number 112 range. But again, you have pace against non-pace. To me, this is a correlated parlay. If you like Indiana State, I'm going to say something against Marco's play. I'm not leaning with the over, but I'm just making you aware. Indiana State would go with the over. Seton Hall would go to the under. FYI, when Marco was talking about first half full game, I went to the database. When I look at in the NIT finals, the first half have averaged 63.4 points per game. The second half has averaged 74.5 points per game. So the second half scoring in the NIT finals, 11.1 points per game more than the first. And FYI, the last 8 NIT finals have gone 7 overs and 1 push last year. But remember, there's been some newness. In 2019, Texas played Lipscomb. That was in Madison Square Garden. 2020, we had the COVID year. 2021, they were in Frisco, Texas. 2022, they were in Las Vegas, in Orleans, in a small arena. And this year's finals are in Hinkle, the legendary Hinkle Field at Butler. So 9,100 people. The Indiana State folks are only 75 miles away from Hinkle. They scooped up the tickets. You are going to see an exciting game tonight with a very town feel for Indiana State. And while I would say in that situation, I normally give them 2.5 point home edge, you do have to remember that Seton Hall has played at Butler. They're obviously division opponents. They actually went in and went there. So I actually downgraded that to just give Indiana State a 1 point home edge because of the crowd. So I do like the Sycamores tonight to take home the NIT title. And by the way, when I look through the last 7 NIT finals, there's only been 1 game decided by single digits, and that was 2 years ago, Xavier and A&M. So we have not had close NIT finals for the last almost a decade.
Ralph, when we talk about the adage, defense wins championships, it's very clear Seton Hall is the better of these two defenses. You talked about Indiana State's or Seton Hall's 3-point numbers, but when you look at full season defensive numbers, they're 35 in the Ken Palm rankings. Indiana State's 115. Are you worried at all that, and certainly the Pirates defense has been dominant in this tournament so far. Are you worried at all that, this is a defense that Indiana State's going to have a hard time cracking?
Well, Teddy, dominant is a word that can be used multiple ways. Yes, when you look at the stats, but when I go back in and look at Seton Hall's opponents, as far as Ken Palm ratings go, St. Joe's, 95. North Texas, 102. UNLV, 73. Georgia, 112. As I said, Indiana State, number 12. Their numbers are good because the average opponent they faced is over 90 on the offensive rank with Ken Palm numbers.
Ralph Michaels joining us. Ralph, let's turn our attention to NBA. I'm asking Teddy not to do a follow-up here as we're running out of time, but he never listens, so expect one regardless. We got Denver playing the LA Clippers, and man, Denver has owned this LA Clipper team. They've won 8 of their last 9, and most of those games have been blowouts. Denver, one of the hottest teams in the league, like always, won 2 in a row. -3.5 here on the road. Where are we going in this game?
You know, when you're looking at the NBA down the road, obviously a lot of teams are playing with playoff need and a lot of teams are looking for seedings. And we know some teams care about seedings and some teams don't. Denver is actually a team that has talked about wanting the number 1 seed. Jokic said it, the number 1 seed is very important to us. My goal is to play every game, and that's my mindset. He's only missed 3 games this season. He says, I will be playing, and I will play out this entire season no matter where we are. So you have a team like Denver that was on a 4-game home streak, and now they're going on the road as an away favorite. Well, guess what? When teams have been in that role, you're at home for 4 games. You're now an away favorite since 2017. Those teams have covered 56%. The Clippers played on the East Coast. They had 4 straight road games and they lost their last game. Those teams that have come back as a home dog, you start getting situated at home. You're not in a routine. Those teams have only gone 40.8% against the spread. And how about this? The Clippers against teams with a winning record have gone 2-13 since February 14th. They are 0-8 against the spread and straight up at home against winning teams. They've been a favorite in 7 of those games. They've been upset as a 9-point favorite, 6-point favorite, 5.5-point favorite, 5.5-point favorite, and 5-point favorite. They've played horribly at home. And then, by the way, Kawhi Leonard felt some uncomfortableness in his knee in the Charlotte game. They flew him back to LA. They listed him out tonight. And for Denver, Jamal Murray has missed the last 6 games. He's practiced the last 2 practices, has felt no discomfort, so we may have Murray back for him as well. Travel situation, home and away, the matchup in this game, Kawhi out, perhaps Murray back, value with the Denver Nuggets.
Ralph Michaels.
Well, you're talking about Marco and Slack.
Yeah, I know. I was typing about Marco because Marco set us late today. But Ralph, you have a chart about MLB favorites, $2 favorites. Like Lawrence asked, I'm going to skip the follow-up for the NBA. It is a game that I have a bettable opinion on. You can check that out at WagerTalk.com tonight. But let's talk about these MLB $2 favorites. I laid close to $2 yesterday for the first time this year. I don't do it a lot, and I was really glad I did after the Cubs blew that big lead and then ended up winning by a single run. I was debating run line, and I was going to lay run line in a game totaled at 7 with the temperatures in the 30s. That being said, worked out great for me laying the price yesterday. Talk about $2 favorites and what we should be doing with them in early season MLB.
Well, you see the green on the top. Look at the top left corner. The left side is the run line at home. The right side after the month is the money line. You look at the chart on the bottom, you see those are run lines away and the money line. So let's take a look at the bottom line of each chart. Since 2021, looking at the green top line, you see that money line home favorites are almost even. You're plus 1.2%. Not a positive, not a negative. Take a look at the run line, the minus 1.5. At home, it is actually better. How many times have you heard, and we've all probably said it, oh, if I'm going to play the run line, I want to play it on the road so I know my opponent, my team is going to get at least 9 at-bats. You bet the run line at home, you may only get 8 at-bats, but the run line at home since 2021 has outperformed the money line. And take a look on the road on the very bottom line. Away favorites of minus 200 on the road, guys. Listen, they've been bad. Minus 7.8% ROI since 2021. But the run line for a minus 200 favorite is actually worse. You're minus 8.5. So it goes against the logic of what you thinking that the home team may not get the extra bat, but you perform better at home. And on the road, where you're always going to get that ninth at bat, you perform poor. And then I broke it down month by month. So let's take a look at the money lines to the right-hand side. You see April minus 3.1%. Why? You're basing it on last year. Pitchers may be overvalued. When you get to May, June, July, and August, you have 2 very good months and 2 basically break-even months. So to me, if you're going to be playing money line favorites of 200 or more, be careful in April. Be careful in September when teams are starting to fade or shut the play down or playing more rookies. But in the middle of the season at home, May, June, July, and August, you've seen positive numbers for both the money line and the run line in those roles.
The hardest working man at Wager Talk, Ralph Michaels, everybody. My brother, please tweet that chart out. Really great information. What do you have going for the clients today?
Well, I'm deciding on a baseball play or not. And once I get the final decision, the Denver Nuggets are not an actual play. But if Murray is available tonight, I think he's a boost to that club. And the Nuggets still may make my card. So check it out. WagerTalk.com, my homepage, wt.buzz/RM, and on Twitter @CalSportsLV. I will certainly tweet this out as soon as I disconnect with you guys.
Thank you, my brother. Guys, we're going to run the show late today. Kyle Anthony's still to join us. But Teddy, man, everybody in the world wants to hear your big game breakdown. So what might it be?
Big game breakdown Thursday, NBA. Let's talk the Knicks and the Kings. NBA on TNT. Right now, looking at the Wager Talk live odds screen. Knicks minus 3.5 total, 214.5 in that range. And I'm going to look at the under in this ball game. These two teams played already once this year. What did we see? 98-91, stayed 30 points under the total. Sacramento coming off a game in which they just shut down the Clippers. 40% shooting. You know, Harden and George combined 6 of 19. 109-95 final. Again, 95 they gave up. Mike Brown, head coach after the game, quote, "This is how you win in the playoffs. You don't win in the playoffs averaging 125 points a game and think that's how you're going to win." Sacramento, their last 12 games, the opponent got to 110 in regulation exactly once. They're 10-2 to the under last 12. They're number 21 in pace over the last 10 games. And let's not underestimate, it's a guy who's not a household name, Malik Monk. He's been their instant offense off the bench all year. He's hurt right now. He just got hurt. It's a huge underrated loss for Sacramento. They'll miss him, and they'll miss him particularly on the offensive end of the court. The Knicks are 4-0 to the over last 4. 3 a game came against fast-paced teams, OKC, or no defense teams, the Spurs and the Raptors. But this is not the team we're looking or expecting to play a whole lot of overs moving forward. And, of course, they're coming off a game in which the role players were hitting everything. You know, we had Dante DiVincenzo scoring 31 and Miles McBride hitting 24 the other night. I don't know that happens night after night. I wouldn't expect that duo to come with 55 points this evening. And again, you know, Knicks, number 29 in pace last 10 games. First meeting, staying under by 30 points. I think tonight, too, we will see a relatively low-scoring affair. Knicks, Kings, under the total. I'll write that up as a free play, like I do most days at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com.
Teddy Covers! Keep kicking ass, my brother. Okay, so we got Kyle Anthony coming up, talking UFC. Let's bring him on. Kyle, you're a one-man show. We should just shut up, sit back, and listen to you talk. Do you ever shave?
Again, it's just kind of just keeping this right here. This right here. That's it.
Is that
That's
for
it.
you or the women?
Women?
Okay.
It goes hand in hand with tattoos, I think.
I got a whole bunch, dude. I got some here.
Right.
I got one there. I got another one coming.
Go.
You're tatted up. I think you have a full sleeve.
Yes, on my back, I got stuff. My leg, I got all kinds of stuff. And I think I'm going to add two before the summer. I don't know.
It's so bloody addictive. It's weird. Okay, brothers. So we're right in the midst of a lot of UFC. Brendan Allen against Chris Curtis. You like Curtis at plus 170. Let's go.
Yeah, so in this spot here, Chris Curtis versus Brendan Allen. Now, these guys fought back in 2021. Now, at that time, this price was around minus 310 for Brendan Allen. And this was a fight where Curtis came in, he did what he needed to do. He was able to outstrike him, outland him, stop takedowns, and ended up knocking out Brendan Allen in that second round, which since then, they've both definitely been on different trajectories. You've got Brendan Allen 6-0 since that loss. Also 5 of those coming by submission. Absolutely fantastic. While Chris Curtis on the other side here, this guy, 3-2-1, and he's been complaining. There's been issues when people kind of look at what he does really in the cage at times, but there is definitely no secret here to really where and what Brendan Allen wants to do. He wants to get takedowns. He wants to get that control time. He wants to really push that forward. Now, the one thing about it is that if he can get the fight down, he's lethal. He's got high-level jiu-jitsu, high-level grappling. Really, a lot of his win equity comes by the submission. I mean, a lot of great things. The issue really here is that can he take Chris Curtis down? Chris Curtis has probably the best takedown defense in the entire division, 92% takedown defense. Brendan Allen on the other side, 47% takedown success rate. So you're definitely going to see that's going to be the battle overall. And I do think that you will see some of that going on, the back and forth. But can he create the space? I think he can. I think he can kind of create that space, land the big shots. Also, Curtis has only been submitted one time in his entire professional career, and that was before the UFC. That was like 10 years ago or somewhere around there. Now you look at kind of even on Brendan Allen's side and kind of when he had his run, the guys that he beat were pure grapplers. These were guys who want to engage in the grappling, who want to engage in the clinch, who want to get in tight. And again, Allen is high level when it comes to that. So he had the ability to kind of get those finishes overall. But I do see this fight playing out on the feet. I do think that Chris Curtis can create the space. He's the cleaner boxer, the better striker. He mixes up his combinations far better overall, chopping at the leg, works the body, works the head, where Allen, he's a little loosey-goosey on the feet. He's hittable. And I really think this is a spot where Chris Curtis can find the success here. I think the price is good. And lastly, the only 2 losses that Brendan Allen has is in the UFC is against Chris Curtis and Chris Curtis's best friend, Sean Strickland. So maybe there's something there. Who knows? But I do like the plus money at plus 170 for Chris Curtis here.
Let's talk about Alexander Hernandez and Damon Jackson. This is another one where you think the underdog might be live.
Yeah, so in this spot here, you've got Alexander Hernandez. He's around the minus 210 mark. You've got Damon Jackson plus 170, plus 175, somewhere around there. Now, Alexander Hernandez, he is an explosive guy, well-rounded. On the other side, you've got Damon Jackson, who is really a grinder. Really, guy's going to kind of keep up against you, and then he's got high-level jiu-jitsu. Now, if you kind of look at the skill level of both of these guys, you've got to give most of the skill really to Alexander Hernandez. This guy has good striking. He's got better wrestling. I think he's the stronger guy. He has more power. While on the other side, Damon Jackson, yes, he's a little sloppy on the feet. He makes a lot of shitty decisions, and his striking is kind of iffy. Now, with that being said, there are so many red flags on the Alexander Hernandez side, and the first part is really going to be his cardio. His cardio is not good at all. Early, he's explosive. He's got good movement. He's got good hands. He can keep top position. He can move forward. And if he cannot get that finish early, things really start to tick down for him overall completely. That's the thing where you can see someone like Damon Jackson having the opportunity to kind of last through that. And then the other part here is the fact that, this is just a bad stylistic matchup for Hernandez. Now, he's got cardio issues. You've got Damon Jackson, who's an absolute dog, who's going to move forward. We're going to be in the apex cage. I think the smaller cage is going to allow Damon Jackson to kind of lean on him, work him, grind him, take this fight a little bit further, really slow him down and smother any of the offense really that Hernandez can get off. And then lastly is the fact that Hernandez has moved down in weight again. He's kind of been flip-flopping a little bit, but this is back down at 145 pounds. I think this is a spot where it is not good for him. Also draining his body, I do believe hurts his cardio, hurts his energy. I think hurts his durability. Even most recently, he was dominated in this division by Bill Algeo, who beat him 30-27, knocked him down, kept him down. So this is a spot here again where I like the dog here. I think the plus money is good. The style is there. The pace is there. So I'm going to be going David Jackson to get the job done at plus 170.
Kyle Anthony, everybody. Guys, we need 10 more likes. Let's go. Let's team up. Let's do it. So if you like money, and I certainly do, it's truly the sexiest thing in the world. It is. I mean, literally, I get turned on by money. I admit it. And I bet your plays every week, Kyle, and I really appreciate it. You've made me a ton of money. I don't have to pay for your plays. I'm part owner of WagerTalk, so I get them in the back end. But, man, 10 straight winning weeks in combat sport, that is outstanding. Up 33 units this year alone. You're picking dogs. You're picking favorites. It never ends. We got a great promo up for you guys, and I really, really think you should take advantage of it. Get 1 year of Kyle Anthony for $599, and yes, he will do a cameo video for your wife as a bonus if required. So $599 for 1 year of Kyle Anthony. Also, if you don't want to lock in a year, use MMA25 and you get $25 off of his 1 month MMA pass. That does not include a cameo video for your wife. That only comes with the 1 year special. Kyle, have I missed anything?
No, I think we're all good here. I got pack up right now, have some plus money, going to be adding to it. So even my ROI is in the 23%. I mean, we're finding a ton of value in each spot every single weekend. And I always say it, it doesn't have to be the big cards. It doesn't have to be those. We have been running through. It's been March Madness in a great way for us over here on the UFC side. So MMA's been treating us good, and we're going to keep it going.
Man, we're lucky to have you, brother. Thanks for being with us at Wager Talk and on these shows. I know I give you a lot of grief, but really, Teddy, his MMA is just killer, dude. And I literally bet them every week. You know, between him and Tokyo Brandon and you and your NBA, Steve Merrill, I mean, it's just an exciting time to be part of Wager Talk. Okay, enough. Teddy, why don't you set up my daily presidential address?
It is time for Lawrence's daily presidential address.
Outstanding work, Theodore. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Huge slate of NHL going tonight. I've got 3 bets to give out. Before we get into that, I just want to make mention again. I had a winning NHL night last night. That's now 2 in a row. My NHL is up profit on the season. And I've got a 2-pack going tonight for my clients. One of them is a money line bet that I absolutely love. I am 33-20 on the year in these NHL money line bets. With all that said, who cares? Right now, it's all about Teddy. If you're not playing Teddy covers on a daily basis, I don't get it. The guy is gold, winning in every single sport. It's been going on for months. So forget me. Check out Teddy over at WagerTalk.com. Okay, 3 games tonight. Pittsburgh playing Washington. Bunch of guys in the chat room said they like the over. I don't. I lean on the under. But I'm not going to bet it. I'm going to bet Pittsburgh here. Basically, I've been against Pittsburgh 2 games in a row. They cost me money both times. But what I'm seeing in this game is one team going in one direction and the other team going in the other. Washington, in a must-win situation, has lost 3 games in a row. They're holding on to the final wild card spot by the skin of their teeth. Pittsburgh is only 3 points behind them, and Pittsburgh is feeling good about themselves right now. Pittsburgh also lost 6-0 to Washington in a head-to-head matchup in their last game. I think Pittsburgh gets it done. Pitt minus 110. St. Louis Blues playing Nashville. This St. Louis Blues team, 5 points out of the out of the wild card spot with the LA Kings above them, only 7 ago. They're going to likely miss out. but they're playing really good hockey and they're trying their best. At plus 155, tons of value on the St. Louis Blues tonight. And I also think we're going to see a regression from the Nashville Predators. As for the New York Islanders going into Columbus, bunch of guys in the chat room mentioned Columbus plus 1.5, and the New York Islanders suck. I'm not with you guys on this. I like the New York Islanders in regulation tonight at minus 135. This team is showing moxie. This team is right in the thick of things, only a couple of points back from the wild card spot. I like the New York Islanders here in regulation, minus 135. That's it for the show. Teddy, my brother, take us home.
That's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again, same time, same channel tomorrow, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and tomorrow's show, you guys know what to do. Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all your wagers.